Hi guys, my name is Roger, and I'm building a mid-engine supercar in the basement of my home. Let's take a look at what I've been working on this week.
To start with this week, we're going to be making our first carbon fiber part for the car. Here you can see I have the mold set up inside of my oven, and I have the vacuum attached and turned on, and you can see the jug with the epoxy resin in it set up with the tube, and I have started the pump and we are doing the vacuum infusion process. You can see the epoxy, which is a dark color, slowly rising up the mold and filling the entire part with epoxy. Once it gets to the top of the part, we will clamp off the tube with the epoxy in it coming into the mold so that no more epoxy can come into the mold, but we will hold a vacuum on the part for a few hours to ensure that the epoxy dries with a vacuum on it. Now once this part is completely infused, then we will shut the oven and turn the heat on and cook or bake this part for 6 hours. I have sped up this infusion process quite a bit. This whole process took a little over an hour. I think it was about an hour and 10 or 15 minutes to completely infuse this part before I shut it off and started baking it in the oven. I'll stop the time-lapse video to show you something up close. You can see the part's getting close to finished. It's taken quite a while. Originally had a vacuum leak that I didn't know about and couldn't quite hear. It was down in the corner where I just couldn't reach easily and get my ear to, but once I found that and plugged it, it started moving faster, although it's taken probably an hour and a half so far to fill this up. You can see I've got a void area here I'm still trying to fill, and it needs to wrap around at least an inch, inch and a half here that it has, and it started coming around here, barely started rolling around the edge here, but has a ways to go. Still a ways from touching my vacuum tubes here. Once it comes off of this flow net here, it slows down tremendously on the peel ply, which is the kind of white stuff here with the red lines in it. And once it comes off of the peel ply into just the carbon fiber, or even below the carbon fiber, it'll really move slow. So hopefully this will feel everywhere I need it to feel before it starts getting close to going up my vacuum tubes. I did purchase a catch pot to go between here and the vacuum pump to catch any resin that makes it to the vacuum tubes, but it has not came in yet, and I thought I would roll the dice and go ahead and try to do one more, just paying close attention. But you can see we're getting close. It's filled most everywhere. I have a spiral wrap tube here that comes up to a T, and then it goes off both directions, and this spiral wrap tube goes to both ends and delivers resin all the way across to both ends of the mold. You can see it flowed up pretty well. It went up the center a little bit faster because this is where the T is for the spiral wrap, so it made it there first. But it's filling in nicely everywhere. Starting to wrap around the corner over here. I only need about an inch of resin up that side once it turns that corner, just for a lip. But we're getting close. Okay, the part finally finished, or at least as close as I could get it. I believe it's good enough to work. So I have clamped off the epoxy, and I'm leaving the vacuum pump on. You can see I've got good pressure here, or a good vacuum, and I have turned the oven on, and I will let this cook or bake or heat, whatever you want to call it, for 1 hour at this temperature. Then I'll go up 10 degrees and cook it for one more hour, and then I'll go up another 20 degrees and cook it for 4 hours. The total time in the oven will be 6 hours till this part is completely cured, and that cures this epoxy to the ultimate strength of it, supposedly. So we will let this run for 6 hours, and then we will check back on it and see what the part looks like once it is finished heating. So the part finished baking in the oven for 6 hours, and I removed the mold in the part, removed all of the bagging materials and the peel ply and everything off of the part, and then popped it off of the mold. You can see it's sitting on top of the mold. But this is what it looks like. and it has a thick coating of wax on it from the mold. You can see I wiped a place here, just trying to wipe some of the wax off. I'll have to use some kind of wax remover to get it all off, I'm sure. But first thing I'm going to do is trim this part, try to get it trimmed out enough that we can put it in the car and verify that it fits and kind of see what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and start trimming this part, and then we'll check back in once I have it finished and sitting in the car. Well, I trimmed the floor of the car out, at least close enough to get it to fit inside. I'll come back and do a final trim later once I have the other parts that match up to this. But this is what it looks like. Let's see if I can get a better angle here. You can see it fits pretty well. It looks pretty good. It still needs to be cleaned up. It has a lot of wax on it, so I need to clean and polish it to get a nice shine on it. But you can see the carbon fiber pretty well, even with it not cleaned up. This gap here is about 1 inch. This is for wiring and loom, and it goes all the way up around the front. And this side will have all of the speaker wires for the radio and the speakers, and the other side, the driver's side, is where all the power wires for the lights and the engine and things like that. You need to try to keep the speaker wires separate from any high power wires so you don't get any interference on your speakers. But I'm happy with this part, and we will move on to something else, the next part, while I'm thinking about it. This came in today. I ordered a carbon fiber steering wheel, which is basically a copy of the Corvette steering wheel, the C7 wheel. All of these extra features will come off of this steering wheel, the factory one, and mount on this carbon fiber wheel. They should interchange exactly. This is made for a Corvette C7. It is just carbon fiber and has the red line here in the center. But I think it's a good looking steering wheel. I'm happy with this. I think the carbon fiber will look right at home in the car when we get this installed. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to salvage this mold to use for the driver's side of the car. The only difference in the passenger side and the driver's side are these angles here on the corner. This will have to switch to being over there on that corner. What I'm going to try to do is come in here and cut this off. Not the base, but the part up here, the mold that we actually use, and we'll cut it off across here straight and rebuild this end here with the angle on the opposite end, or at least that's my plan. I'm going to try to do that so I can salvage this mold and use it for the driver's side of the floor also, instead of rebuilding an entire mold. This was a tremendous amount of work getting this ready, assembling it, priming, puttying, sanding, all the steps involved. So I'd like to try to salvage this and make the other side of the car if possible. But I'm going to get started on that, and we will see if I can make this work, and I'll check back with you here shortly. Okay, well, here's the pattern that I have modified, and what I did was I took the pattern that we made the passenger side floor with, and I cut the end off here. Everything about the pattern was mirrored except for this end because of the angles here, and I removed this and put the angles on the opposite side, which looks like this. I cut that section off and spliced a new one on, and I've been puttying and priming and sanding, getting this to where it fits up nice, and it is not 100% yet, but it's very close. The mold I will make next will go in the back here. I'm thinking this is going to be two-piece and not one single piece, but I haven't decided for sure yet. But this is the piece that glues here to the floors. It comes up and turns and goes across and bolts to this ledge here. And all of that will be carbon fiber also. And then I'm thinking this will be some kind of material, either a leather or some other material. I haven't decided yet. But once that piece is made, then we'll still need to make the front basically firewall, which actually the rear is the firewall, but anyway, we'll call them both the firewall. Once the rear firewall is made, we'll need to make the front firewall, And then the console area itself, I need to purchase 1 or 2 more pieces before I finish design on this console, because it needs to fit up close around the baggage area, the switches, whatever boot I'm going to use here, which is not going to be this one. I'll need to order a new boot with the correct shift pattern on the top. That one is for a 5-speed, and this is a 6-speed transmission. But once all of those parts are made, then we can fit them together correctly and glue them together, bond them up to where they're one solid part, so there is no gaps in between the panels.
And I guess that's going to be it for this week's video. Hopefully I'll see you guys again in 1 or 2 weeks with some more progress, and you can follow along as I complete the interior of this car. See you guys again in a week or 2.